In a world where entertainment is viewed as mindless diversion, only good for momentary distraction, one podcast has taken a stand, thoughtfully engaging the art of our day, dissecting the narrative, and pointing the people back to the greatest storyteller of all. You are about to enter a new world, and you will never view entertainment in the same way again. This is Popcorn Theology.
Welcome, movie lovers and theology nerds, to Popcorn Theology, where we examine films for where they align with the greatest story and our greatest storyteller, discussing what to receive, reject, and redeem for common ground, fruitful conversation, and mindful movie consumption. I'm Eric.
And I'm Maddy.
And welcome back to our special series on The Rings of Power Season 2. We're covering the series as it is releasing, so we're doing weekly episodes on just The Rings of Power, and just providing some quick rounds of reject, receive, and redeem. Forewarned, there is no spoiler-free section. We're in spoiler territory tonight, and we're looking at Episode 7. So, Maddy, what is Episode 7 supposed to be about?
Well, it says Aregion's fate is decided. Or is it? Because
Yes.
I don't think it was decided. It was left very undecided.
Yeah, it was, like the battle is literally not over yet. Sauron hasn't been fought. Like, he hasn't won, he hasn't lost. So, like, the fighting's still going on. So I don't know what fate has been decided yet with this. So let's go ahead and start jumping into our general thoughts. So basically, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly of this episode. So let's go ahead and give our patented Popcorn Theology ratings of stale, fresh, or buttered and salted. So I will start because I think you're just raring to go. So this episode for me, honestly, I'll be completely honest with people. This is 100% certified stale. This show and this episode in particular is boring. It's just boring. I want to hate the show, but it's worse than that. I'm just bored and apathetic about it. Nothing is happening. Nothing is interesting. I don't care about any of the characters. I said to my wife, Becky, when the Asian elf lady died, and I will call her the Asian elf lady because I don't know her name. I don't think I ever heard of the entire show. It's like when she died, I actually said, wow, I wish I knew more about her so I would care that she just died. Like, I didn't know her name. I didn't know any character development. Didn't know anything. She did a heroic last stand, had the Boromir scene, but I didn't care because I knew nothing about her. I didn't care about this character. It was just a character that died and did something heroic. Yep. On top of that, the battle was just slow and meandering and just not interesting. It wasn't drawing me in, and then they would even cut away from it. I was expecting, in all honesty, a 25-minute battle, like fight scene and everything like that, like uncut, but no, nothing happened. It just kept going back and forth. I met a guy just randomly last night. I was at a networking event for the bank that I work with. I go and do a lot of networking events, and I'm talking to a guy he was up at the bar, and I started talking with him, introduced myself, and another friend of mine came up and was like, "Oh, Eric, Eric's a host of a podcast." And the guy goes, "Oh, cool. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan?" Yeah. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I love Lord of the Rings." And he's like, "Yeah, that Rings of Power show, it's just not good. Like, if it wasn't tied to the Lord of the Rings, no one would care about it. The show is just not interesting." And this guy, so his name's Robbie. So Robbie, if you're watching, hi Robbie. You're great to meet you. But that was without any prompting from me. That was without him knowing my opinion of the show. He just offered that information to me. And then for the next 15, 20 minutes, we talked about actual Lord of the Rings and how great actual Lord of the Rings is. So it was a fun conversation. It was great. But that complete random stranger, essentially, kind of confirms what I've been saying since day one, is that if this show did not have Tolkien or the Lord of the Rings adjacent to it, no one would care about it. No one would be interested in it. It is not gaining any interest outside of this an increasingly small minority of this fan base. Yeah. So a couple other quick little thoughts, and then Maddy, you can take it away with your your opinions. Is I would rather see an actual orc elf alliance than Elrond and Galadriel kissing again. I don't know why they decided to go with the kiss. There's a lot of reasons that you can try to do it. It's like it's the Rey and Kylo Ren kiss, where there's like, oh, it's just a kiss of friendship. I was like, no.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, no, that's not a kiss of friendship. So I have no idea why they were doing that.
Friends don't do that, guys.
And that's without getting into the lore, which everyone keeps going, why do you keep bringing up the lore? Why do you keep bringing up the lore? Because it actually matters when you're using established characters. That's without getting into the lore of that he's literally kissing his future mother-in-law. It's crazy. Yeah. All right. And my last piece, and Maddy, you can take it away, is right before we recorded, literally 10, 15 minutes ago, I watched the first 10 minutes of The Fellowship of the Ring just to do a palate cleanser. I was like, I need to watch some actual good cinema. And one, it's amazing. It's amazing. And my wife just made the comment. She's like, why does the elf armor in Rings of Power look so bad? She's like, it just looks off. And we can't put her finger on it. And she says, is it made out of plastic? She's like, she doesn't know why it doesn't. And she said, and I told you her opinion the other day. She's like, it feels more like Star Wars. She's like, maybe that's why, is because everything in Star Wars is plastic. So like, maybe that's why she's associated. Is like, I don't know. Part of my theory is, if you remember, the other visual representations that we've seen, cinema representations of elves look otherworldly. Like even Legolas, like some of the things he does, it looks like he's out of place in a good way. He's otherworldly. All of the elves in this show, and their armor and their structures and everything they do, just seems like it's plain old humans doing it.
Yeah.
There's nothing otherworldly about anything to do with the elves in this show. And I think my wife was kind of getting on that. I don't know how much plastic they were using versus actual metal. So if any actual people that worked on the show, if you did real metal, we apologize. I'm sure you were given a great budget, and probably your higher up creatives told you to not use your actual talent. But anyway, those are my thoughts. We'll have next week. We'll have a full series recap on all of our thoughts, and probably bring some of these back up again. Yeah. So Maddy, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, so many thoughts. Definitely stale. This story is just so convoluted. I don't know who I'm supposed to be rooting for anymore at this point. And I think everyone in this episode is confused. And here's some questions for you. Why is Arondir, I don't even know if that's how you say it, Arondir still here? Arondir still here. Why the vendetta? What is his arc? I don't know. Where are the not hobbits and Gandalf? What's their objective and purpose? I don't know. Why is Elrond kissing his future mother-in-law? And where's her husband and her daughter? I don't know. What's happening with Elendil and Muriel? Oh, and also Isildur, who we left off somewhere a few episodes ago. Haven't seen him in a while. I don't know. Just on top of all the senseless meandering of the plot, and the dialogue in the story also continues to be half-baked and just outright annoying. Just breaks all the rules of show don't tell. They just say everything. Like they show that shot, which was kind of a cool shot of them damming the river. And then the one girl elf, the blonde girl elf, again, can't remember her name, says, "They're damming the river." Like, duh. Like, we can see that. And then, I don't know, later on, Celebrimbor says something where it's just kind of like an obvious, like, why would you need to say that? Like, obviously, we know what's going on. But yeah, and then number one, they finally boarded the woke train, and our suspicions that we had of the orcs being poor victims came to fruition finally in this episode. and to top it off, even Sauron's a victim too of Morgoth. Just boo-hoo for all these, poor villains. I guess they want us to feel for them or something. And then, like you said earlier with the Asian elf lady, that was another scene steal of Boromir's death scene. And again, it doesn't land at all the same because we don't know who she is at all. I just vaguely remember, I'm like, oh, she was part of their party when they set out for Aragion.
Oh, she was? Okay, I didn't even remember.
Yeah. And I vaguely remember that. I was like, oh, she was, yeah. And then, but they play off her death like it's this dramatic thing, and it's like, we don't know her. And it's like, yeah, I don't really care because I don't know why she's here. Also, people keep losing fingers in this in Lord of the Rings. So
yeah, this isn't Star Wars, people. Just because someone has, it's like Skywalker's all losing their hands. Yeah, no, it's like, this is, just, you don't have to lose a finger. Yeah,
everyone loses a finger. And then my
I was
main
actually
question,
so I would say that about losing the finger part. I was actually half hoping they would kind of show it.
Oh, really?
Because then it would have been like, it would have been an opportunity to try to like show off their like cinematography and be able to do stuff like that. I mean, they didn't shy away from blood. I mean, Elrond cut a guy.
Yeah, a couple of episodes have been pretty violent
from top to bottom. So
yeah,
it's like they showed that. Why don't you show the finger being cut off? But anyway,
yeah, no, that was They kind of cut short of seeing it. And the blonde elf lady that died, he threw her off the wall, and right as they're like stabbing her in the face, they cut away. Yeah. But it was still pretty violent. Like, that was actually kind of disturbing. They hit or miss here or there. But my number one question, though, out of all of this is, I don't know how there's any way on heaven or earth that they're going to tie all this up in the next episode, which is the last episode of the season. I'm gonna because again, we haven't seen some of these characters for like 2 or 3 episodes, and it's like, where are they? What are they doing? Where are we gonna go from here? And I don't know. I don't see there being a third season. I just don't know how there can be a third season when it's just so bad. But I think they already have it planned for like 4 or 5 seasons or something.
I think so. From what I've heard there's supposed to be 5 seasons. They've already greenlit it for 5 seasons. And the thing is, like, I mean, it's Amazon. I mean, this is everything on Amazon Prime streaming, stuff like that. It's all of it is a loss leader, all of it. So it's like they're not trying to gain money or anything like that. It's literally a loss leader. It's an ability for them to actually try to tell stories that they care about, that they like, yada yada, stuff like that. It's not meant to be like, I mean, they do have some great shows. Don't get me wrong. I like the Jack Reacher, at least. Reacher. I liked Reacher. I liked Jack Ryan. That's what I was thinking of. Like the first season, in particular, of that show. So they have some good stuff, but all of it's a loss leader. They own the internet. So like they're the largest data. I believe they're one of the largest data storage companies in the world. They literally own the internet. The cloud runs through a lot of their AWS stuff. So all of this is a loss leader. So they're not like Disney. They're not like the other studios where they're really watching the numbers and going, hey, we keep dumping a lot of money into this. Like, do we want to keep doing it? They're kind of already at the point where they know they're not going to make money off of it. They're not making money off of the 10, 15, I guess it's $15 a month now of Amazon Prime, which majority of that's going to their shipping cost. So so that's how I think they can get to 5 seasons. Whether they actually choose to do that or not, I don't know. Yeah. All I know from what I've heard, and I haven't heard any different, I have heard that season 3 is like greenlit, like like good
So
to go.
crazy.
So who knows? That's
Yeah.
just me talking.
Yeah. Did you like really love the orc heavy metal music at the end of this episode?
I didn't get it. I think it was people don't understand how things work. One, you have to tell a good and compelling story. That jarringness
That was
worked
so weird.
in. So I don't know if you saw it, and I'm going to out myself with a lot of people here. That worked after the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones because one, it was brilliantly written, and two, it was actually shocking. And so when that like heavy metal music came, it was like jarring. You're like, whoa,
Whoa,
like
yeah.
yeah, it was especially when every other episode been ending in like classical type of music or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I think that's what
That
they
was
were
just
going
weird.
for, but I just don't think they knew what they were doing at
Yeah,
all.
no. Like
Yeah,
most of the
which
show.
yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and move into our theology section, and yeah, we'll go ahead and start with the reject section. And for me, overall, this episode was very diluted. Now, granted, most of the episode was taken up by like a fight, like fight scenes and stuff like that. So it's like you can only expect so much themes, quote unquote, to really come about. And yeah,
Yeah.
you could talk about like the sacrifice and the camaraderie and all the other type of stuff like that. But yeah, to me it was just yeah, pretty much diluted. What do you think overall?
Yeah, I'd say the same. Again, I found it hard to pick out um receives
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, this episode was definitely hard. But so since you've got two rejects, why don't you go ahead and go first, and then I'll jump in the middle, and then you can finish up our
Okay.
rejects.
All right. So, which one do I want to do first? um I'll start with the victimhood mentality thing. So again, like this idea that the orcs and Sauron, like they were deceived too, and so really they're just like us, and um, they had it bad as well, and we should feel sorry for them. But it's not really like that, and I just think that, especially trying to put it into the show, really doesn't work because the whole thing about Lord of the Rings is that it's a very clear delineation of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a whole lot of gray areas. Like the only one I can really think of is Gollum in a sense, but even that at the end is kind of predetermined, like it was all gonna end up this way. Um, but yeah, it's like a very clear delineation of like orcs are bred from evil, they are evil. And I just kind of think of it as like, like Sauron is like the devil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the orcs are kind of those other fallen angels that chose to go down with him because the Bible says there are demons. And the Bible never says that we're to feel sorry for these demons. That, like, oh, they got a bad rap, Satan deceived them too. And, they're all right, though.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not. They are evil. We shouldn't be listening to spirits or demons. Um, Jesus cast them out and like destroyed them. So this victimhood mentality, it kind of makes you minimize your own sinfulness because you're just saying, oh, but what they did to me was worse, and so
Mm-hmm.
I deserve something for that. If I get reparations or whatever. But you don't, and it takes away our guilt, and it's like we're guilty too, but we have a savior, but they don't even have that.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the thing, they don't have any light that they're looking to. They don't have any higher purpose other than to do evil. I think you had mentioned in one of the previous episodes about the conversation in the books between two orcs and how a normal conversation between two orcs is about like, pillaging, villages, and
Yep.
they're having a, that's a good time for them. So it's like that's the kind of people you're dealing with. Like we don't really feel sorry for that. So yeah, that was any thoughts on that? I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, so I do. So the orcs, so in season 1, it was all about creating a home for a land for the orcs.
Yeah.
What does that look like? It's chaos and destruction. It's a volcano. It's a scorched sky.
Yeah. No sun. They
Because
can't live under the sun. They can't live in
exactly,
the light.
exactly, they can't live in the light. So it was like they literally, they destroy an environment so that they can have a home for for themselves. So I was like, there's that, and then on the victim mentality side, so a lot of times what the issue comes down to, and I was having this conversation with my father-in-law, and I've had it with a couple other people, is the idea of blame versus responsibility. There's things that will happen in your life and can happen in your life that you are not to blame for. You are a victim, but you do have the responsibility to now do better and change those consequences and change those situations. So it's husband wife type of issues where the wife does something where the husband wasn't aware of it. He's not to blame for that, but he is now responsible for that. And the same way that she is also responsible for that. Maybe she does, bear the blame in that case, or maybe not. It was like, who knows? She could have been deceived. In technically, if you are deceived, you do bear the blame. But anyways, you know where I'm getting this.
Yeah.
This blame versus responsibility, and victimhood is constantly seeking victimhood mentality, I should say, is constantly seeking to place blame on someone and run away from responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really where it is. Like Adar, Sauron, everyone, they're all pushing blame off. Sauron's pushing blame onto Morgoth. And Adar's pushing blame onto Sauron and Morgoth for what he's done to the orcs and and all of that. But yeah, those are my rough thoughts on that.
Yeah. What was your reject?
Yeah, so my reject, and again, it's kind of one of those where it could be maybe in a redeem or receive type of category, because technically they're not showing Sauron in a positive light or anything like that. But I think it needs to be highlighted as a reject because of our tendency to actually be like Sauron. Like most people don't actually know why Sauron followed Morgoth. And the thing that Sauron wanted more than anything else was he wanted order. He wanted to put order into the world. And I couldn't find out the source of this quote, but it was a source from Tolkien, is that it had been Sauron's virtue and therefore also the cause of his fall and of his relapse that he loved order and coordination and disliked all confusion and wasteful friction. So this is one of the things that the Rings of Power missed, and I actually forgot about this until literally just read it, is when the Valar came, defeated Morgoth, imprisoned him, did all of that, Sauron went and hid. He went and hid himself. He came back, and for a time, he was kind of welcomed back in. And some people trusted him, other people didn't. And he wasn't wholly evil. But that's where Tolkien says his relapse. He relapsed back into that same sin of wanting to bring order to the world. And and so he wanted to make a perfect world, but he was doing it through this instrument of order. And this temptation, the reason why I put it here in the reject section, is this is still a temptation today in the real world. Whether it's leftism, far-rightism, Christian nationalism, or anything in between, there's this desire for a perfect world, and it's always through order. And that desire for this perfect world through order is the path of Sauron. That's what he was. And C.S. Lewis has this great quote. It says, of all tyrannies, a tyranny exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It may be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. So, if
That's
you
a great
have
quote.
the opportunity, put everything in the order and just hold it all tight. Reject that impulse in yourself. Just reject it outright, and definitely don't try to put that onto other people.
Yeah.
God, through Christ and the Holy Spirit, is making this world perfect. But he's not doing it through this control mechanism of order. He's actually doing it through freedom. He sets us free from the burden of sin and allows us to be humans, and allows us to have he allows us to go through sanctification instead of just ordering us the way that Sauron is trying to order the world. So that was my reject.
Yeah. That's really good. It just kind of reminds me of the people who want to make it a heaven on earth, and that is leftists and Christians sometimes. It's like, we will make this world a heaven on earth. You're gonna legalize morality, and it doesn't usually work. It doesn't work that way. My other reject, which again could be kind of a receive, because I think they're trying to say it is bad, but then it's kind of confusing in certain parts where maybe not. I don't know. Again, this whole story. But kind of that old adage, pride before a fall. And we all fall into this sin of pride. Especially they're focusing on Celebrimbor in this episode. And honestly, Sauron is kind of right when he's talking to Celebrimbor and kind of saying, really, this is your fault. Like, you wanted this. And again, but they try to turn it and say, well, he's a deceiver, but he's a deceiver who uses your wants and desires. And that's what the devil also does. Because in James 1:14, but each person is tempted when he is lured by his own desire. So the devil can do that, but it's still our sin, still our fault. Again, kind of going back to the victimhood mentality thing, this kind of ties right in. So Celebrimbor's pride really did lead to his downfall. I mean, he's the one who came up with the idea to lie to his king and say, no, we're not making any more rings. Actually, I am. Because he wanted to prove that he was this great smith. He wanted to live up to his ancestors. And when he's cutting off his thumb to get out of the handcuffs that he's in, he says, whose will is mightier? And it really, again, it just shows that he's still prideful. Like, he isn't mightier. He's literally been, enslaved to Sauron. Yeah, he might have gotten out of those handcuffs, but he still fell for all the lies. And he's still trying to rest in his own strength, even while saying, I was deceived. So again, it's kind of like, it doesn't really work that way. Yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, so for those that have not seen the show on Hulu called The Bear, go ahead and fast forward about 30 seconds to a minute.
It's so good, though. You should definitely see it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a fantastic show. Fantastic. Language warning for those that are sensitive to a lot of F-bombs. But yeah, so jump forward about 30 seconds. So there's a scene in The Bear where season 3, final episode, Carmy confronts Chef David, who, as you know, has been tormented. This memory of him is tormenting him. And Chef David basically just says, yeah, you're welcome. You wanted the world. You wanted to be the greatest chef in the world. When you came to me, you were an okay chef. I made you great. You're welcome. And Carmy doesn't know what to say back because he knows it's true. He wanted to accuse the devil of being the devil and lying to him and doing all this. And devil is just like, I just gave you exactly what you wanted. Give you exactly what you wanted. And that's what Sauron basically does to Celebrimbor. It's like, listen, yeah, I used subterfuge. I'm not going to say I didn't, but really, I used subterfuge and gave you what you wanted at the end of the day. It's the classic classic Faustian bargain. That's literally what it is. Like, there's a reason why it's literary trope and all of the stuff. It's the classic Faustian bargain that I'm going to give you exactly what you want and all the consequences that come with it. Yeah,
that's the part we don't want.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I'll go next with my kind of half-baked-ish. Let's see how we go with this. I think it's a good receiver redeemed. So Adar is completely misguided and most likely falling into Sauron's hand. And this is probably one of those other plot points that is like, ooh, Sauron planned this all along type of thing. And it's like, yeah, whatever. They haven't shown us that or even told us that. But one thing Adar does understand, though, is he rightly understands that due to the nature of orcs, and that they will always be susceptible to a leader like Sauron. They're always going to be looking for that, for the shortcut. They're always going to be looking for the person that's going to give them the easy answer or the easy conquest. They're very susceptible to Sauron because of the nature that they have. Is he? And the question then becomes: it's an accusation from Elrond and the other orc, the daddy orc. Well, I'll just call him Daddy Orc. I'm sure he has a name, but I don't know.
No, that's like saying Daddy God. Don't do that.
Well, I would never say that either. But
Daddy Orc.
Yeah. Papa Orc. There it goes. Papa Orc. So Papa Orc, he also has the same feelings. Like, you're sacrificing us. Right? You're sending this super cave troll out, and he's going to kill a lot of our own men and yada yada, all this stuff. And the question then, though, is he sacrificing his children? Yes, but this is also war. Mm-hmm. And there are greater evils than submitting, than not going to war. And particularly when you are fighting something that is truly evil, is true evil. And that's what Sauron is to him. He knows that as long as Sauron is alive, his kids will never be safe. And there's this, I first heard it from the Punisher movie is, Sigvis pacem parabellum. I can't say it's in Latin, but basically it says, if you want peace, prepare for war. Mm-hmm. And it's really what you need to do. And Ecclesiastes 3:8, if anyone that wants to be like, oh no, war's never a biblical precedent, is Ecclesiastes 3:8 says, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And there's both things. You want peace, but you have an enemy in front of you, and now you go to war with that enemy. As Christians, maybe sometimes that does mean physical warfare, but majority of the time for us, particularly living in the United States during peacetime, our warfare is spiritual, and so you go to war. We are living in a time of war, of spiritual war right now. And so, if you want the peace that comes with it, go ahead and be prepared for war and go with it. So I would say Adar, his view of the danger of Sauron is the correct view. It's actually Galadriel's view and Elrond's view. It's everyone's view. Yeah. It's just he's misguided and he's using an orc army to try to accomplish it.
Yep, I agree. Well, the only redeem that I could really pull from this was the quote from Celebrimbor when he's talking to Galadriel. It is not strength that overcomes darkness, it is light. Which is so true. we know that as Christians. The problem with this show is that it's full of phrases like this. It's full, I mean, every episode we've managed to pull some really great quotes, you know, and say, look, this is biblical. Like, this is really great. But in this show, they don't tie it to anything. It means nothing because they never show us what the light is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they do mention the Valar, but not in a. Again, it's like they're kind of guiding things, but then again, some episodes I feel like we've totally left off that, and it's like, no, I am the master of my destiny type deal. But then it's like, no, the will of the Valar, and then we're back to, again, it's just back and forth, back and forth. You can't decide what they want. But the good news is that as Christians, we do know what the light is. Psalm 18:28-30. For it is you who light my lamp. The Lord my God lightens my darkness. It's God. The answer. Yeah. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. Jesus is the light. You have to have this higher way that you're looking to. It can't just be like, oh, it's friendship, you know, or it's you know, loyalty, because again, they play with these themes in there, but that's not like the ultimate. God is the way, the truth, and the light. His ways should be our ways because he said so, because he is God, because he is perfect. So again, like in this show, we don't really get to see what these ultimate powers are, but if you do read the Silmarillion, you know that there is this plan, basically this song that was sung, and it's being played out. But again, it's not really made clear in this show.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great spot for us to go ahead and end on. So until next time, keep engaging movies and media from a godly perspective. And remember, you are not a mindless consumer.
Thanks for watching this episode of Popcorn Theology. For more content, subscribe on YouTube. Follow and interact on social media to help broaden the conversation. Check out our archive of past episodes at popcorntheology.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And consider becoming a patron saint by supporting us on Patreon, which lets you interact, influence, and enjoy exclusive bonus content.